He thought he was just another man, but he was about to witness a legend forged from earth, sweat, and seeds that life stubbornly insists on sprouting, even where everything seems to have withered away. Because sometimes the silence of those who suffer is the most potent forge of justice, and the dust of the road, the only judge that truly matters. Arrogance carries a steep price, and the debt held in one's heart that is repaid with interest at the opportune moment, without a fuss. Morning dawned, bringing the promise of another scorching day in the countryside. On Palm Avenue, where the asphalt gave way to sprawling pastures, the Bright Horizon dealership gleamed under the intense sun, its mirrored windows reflecting the cloudless sky. Inside, an oasis of air conditioning sharply contrasted with the outside world's harsh reality, while impeccably dressed salesmen in crisp white shirts observed the ebb and flow of customers with the precision of anglers awaiting a big catch. It was then that the glass door swung open and an unexpected sound shattered the polished atmosphere, the dull thud of heavy boots striking the waxed floor. A tall man, with skin weathered by time and sun and calloused hands that knew the smell of the earth, entered the showroom. He wore faded jeans, a wrinkled cotton shirt, and a slightly crooked straw hat. The buttons on his shirt were haphazardly fastened, and a faint scent of dry brush seemed to accompany him, mingling with the fresh aroma of new cars. "Good morning, gentlemen," he said, removing his hat with a respectful gesture. "I came to look at some pickup trucks." His tone was calm, almost a whisper, yet his presence filled the space with an intriguing quietness. One of the salesmen, Ethan, the most seasoned and notoriously arrogant in the store, lifted his eyes from his computer. A poorly concealed smile, almost a sneer, appeared on his lips. "Ah, certainly. You must be Elias, correct?" he inquired, without even stirring from his chair. The farmer nodded with a tranquil gesture. "Yes, Mr. Elias," Ethan continued, his voice bordering on condescension. "Have you already researched our models online, or did you just come for a quick look?" Elias looked directly at him, his soft-spoken manner contrasting with the firmness in his gaze. "I want to see 7 identical heavy-duty pickup trucks. If you have them in black, even better," he replied, with a calmness that disarmed the room. Ethan raised his eyebrows, surprise mixing with disbelief. 7, he repeated, almost in a whisper. Elias nodded again. 7. If I like them, I'll pay cash. The words echoed through the showroom like a silent bomb. Ethan let out a muffled chuckle and cast a knowing glance at his colleagues. In the corner, one of them whispered something and laughed. Another muttered through clenched teeth, "Gonna raise an army." Elias seemed not to hear, merely opening his old backpack and pulling out a sheet of paper with handwritten notes, his eyes scanning the showroom with no urgency to convince anyone. It was at that moment that one of the younger salesmen, David, approached. "Mr. Elias, would you care for some coffee? I can show you the models with more powerful engines and low-range gearing, suitable for off-road use." Elias's response was a sharp cut to the muffled laughter of the others. "I only have business with those who speak to me with respect," he said, looking directly into David's eyes. The young man smiled slightly, a little awkward, and invited him to sit. While the other salesman chuckled softly in the background, Elias sat down with dignity, took a simple pair of glasses from his pocket, and in a low, measured voice began to explain what he wanted. He wasn't there to impress. He was there to fulfill a promise. And even though no one knew it yet, this wasn't just a purchase. It was a chapter in a story he had waited 30 years to write. As David, with his characteristic calm, displayed the models in the catalogue, glances shot across the showroom like poisoned arrows. Ethan, the most senior salesman, pretended to organize papers but whispered loud enough to be heard. "He wants 7, huh? Next, he'll ask for a helicopter." The muffled laughter from the other 2 salesmen in the background did not go unnoticed. David cast a discreet glance in their direction, trying to maintain his composure. He was accustomed to that kind of environment. But that morning, something bothered him more than usual. Mr. Elias, meanwhile, seemed oblivious to the mockery. He examined the brochures, asking technical questions with the precision of someone who knew more about dirt roads than many there knew about asphalt. He wanted to know about torque, load capacity, reinforced suspension. "Do you intend to use them for heavy transport?" David asked, curious. "No, they'll be presents," Elias replied, without taking his eyes off the specification sheet. David raised his eyebrows, surprised. "Presents?" Elias nodded without further explanation. It was at this moment that Ethan approached the table with a falsely sympathetic expression, leaned his arms on it and said, "Mr. Elias, we deal with real orders here, okay? 7 pickup trucks paid in cash is serious business. Did you bring any proof of income, a bank statement?" David tried to interject. "Ethan, I'm with him. Everything's fine. Kid, I just want to make sure we don't waste time with fantasies," Ethan retorted, without even looking at David. Mr. Elias looked at Ethan with the same calmness as before. He pulled his wallet from his back pant pocket and unhurriedly placed a bank-headed paper on the table, displaying his account balance. David discreetly glanced at it, and the numbers spoke for themselves. There was no fantasy there. Ethan cleared his throat, and the other salesman fell silent for a few seconds. "Well, in that case," he began, trying to force a smile, "perhaps we could—" "It's too late now," Mr. Elias interrupted, his voice firm, but his tone unchanged. "I'll proceed with this young man here. He's the only one who treated me like a human being since I walked in." David was speechless. Ethan, mouth agape, simply nodded and slowly retreated. The atmosphere in the store grew tense. A heavy silence settled, speaking volumes more than any sales pitch. For the first time, the laughter vanished, but Mr. Elias remained unfazed. He continued to answer David's questions patiently, checking details, noting the potential vehicle identification numbers. The dignity of his silence, his unwavering composure in the face of initial disdain, had turned the tables, leaving the other's arrogance without a retort. "If this infuriates you as much as it infuriated me, and if you believe that true wealth resides in the heart, like this video and subscribe to the channel, the coming twist will make you see the world differently." David, still affected by Mr. Elias's demeanor, gently asked, "Mr. Elias, forgive my asking, but who are these trucks for?" Elias paused for a moment, looking towards the window where the light reflected off the body of one of the pickups. He took a deep breath. "For those who never abandoned me," he said, and then smiled, a short smile laden with meaning. David didn't fully grasp what that meant, but he knew in that instant that something far greater lay behind that request. With the models chosen, colors decided and notes taken, David had already prepared a formal proposal. He still tried to understand what drove that calm, determined, and enigmatic man. Mr. Elias requested that all 7 vehicles be identical. Same color, same configuration, same optional features, all black with 4x4 traction and a diesel engine. No frills, but tough, like people who live in the mud. As David filled out the form on the system, he furtively glanced at the farmer, trying to imagine the story behind it all. A gift, 7 pickup trucks paid in cash. Were they for children, grandchildren, business partners? Across the store, Ethan watched with a sullen expression. The other salesman avoided eye contact. The manager, Ms. Thompson, sensing the discomfort in the air, approached David with a controlled tone. "Everything all right here?" "Yes, Ms. Thompson." "He wants to close on all 7 today," David replied. The manager looked at Mr. Elias, who was responding to an email on his old cell phone with a thick finger and slow movement. "Mr. Elias, of course we want to fulfill your order. But before anything else, I need to verify the financial aspects: transfer, invoice, registration. Do you have a business account?" Mr. Elias didn't get irritated. He simply pulled a contact card and a letter of recommendation signed by a local bank from his inside shirt pocket. David took them, read them, and handed them to the manager with a look that said, "Now you better not mess this up too." Ms. Thompson remained silent, examining the documents. The letter spoke for itself. Mr. Elias was one of the largest suppliers of corn and milk in the region, with land in 4 municipalities. Discreet, but respected. The tension shifted. The manager tried to force a smile. Of course, I apologize, sir. We're just following protocol." "No need to apologize, young lady. I'm used to it," Elias replied. David felt the impact of those words. They didn't come with bitterness, but with the calm of someone who had been judged too many times by their appearance and never by their inner self. Minutes later, the manager confirmed that the down payment transfer had been approved. Mr. Elias didn't hesitate. "I'll finalize the rest tomorrow morning. I want to deliver them by the weekend." David, surprised, asked, "You're delivering them personally?" "Yes, I am, one by one. I want to see their faces when they arrive." "Who are they?" David asked for the second time. Mr. Elias looked into the young man's eyes, as if assessing if he deserved to hear. "If you really want to know, show up Saturday on Quilombo Road. I'll take you with me." David hesitated for an instant, but something inside him, perhaps curiosity, perhaps respect, said yes. And at that moment, he still had no idea what was coming, but he knew he wanted to see it with his own eyes. Saturday arrived with a clear sky and the strong scent of packed earth in the air. David didn't know what to expect. He followed Mr. Elias's instructions and drove down Quilombo Road, where the asphalt turned to dust and cell phone signal vanished. When he found the wooden gate with a horseshoe nailed to its center, he knew he was in the right place. On the other side, he saw Mr. Elias, now wearing a new hat, leaning against the first of the 7 lined-up vehicles, all gleaming and identical, black and powerful, aligned like soldiers ready for a silent mission. "Thought you weren't coming, kid," Mr. Elias said, smiling. David got out of his car, shook his hand, and stared at the trucks. "This is all real, then?" "And the best is yet to come," Elias replied. He asked David to accompany him on the first leg of the journey. David got into the passenger seat as the engine purred softly. The old farmer began to speak, not like someone telling a casual story, but like someone laying bare a piece of his own soul. "When I was in my early 20s, I worked on a settlement with 6 others. Everything was small, little land, great hunger. We only had one pickup, an old one falling apart, but it was what we had." He gripped the steering wheel with both hands, as if still in that time. "We shared it for everything, taking milk to town, picking up feed, rushing a sick child to the clinic. Sometimes it broke down halfway, and each of us would walk, pushing it, laughing. Nobody complained because we were brothers of the road, brothers of the mud." David listened in silence, feeling a lump form in his throat. One by one they grew old. Some lost everything. One had a stroke, another sold their land. One still works, but only with horses now. "And you?" "I stayed. Produced more, saved, but I never forgot what they did for me, for my family. And that's why, today, each of them will receive one of these. No warning, just gratitude." They stopped in front of the first house, a simple shack with a crooked wooden porch. An elderly man emerged, his shirt open and his face marked by time. He stopped at the gate and stood motionless. "Hey, remember me, Arthur? I came to deliver your pickup." "My what?" "Brand new pickup. It's right there. It's in your name. It's paid off." The old man brought his hands to his face, staggered. A woman came out from inside crying, "This is a joke, isn't it?" Old debt, just paying it back with love. David watched it all with teary eyes. This scene repeated 6 times. Each house, a story. Each delivery, an embrace. Each key, a symbol of something no money could buy. At the last delivery, Mr. Elias stopped in front of the 7th pickup and said, "This one's for me. Not out of vanity, but to remember every time I drive it, that it's worth walking with people who don't leave you by the side of the road." On Monday, the dealership's showroom looked the same. Clean cars, starched salesmen, coffee served in plastic cups. But there was a buzz in the air. A simple video made by David, with clips of the pickup deliveries, had started to circulate. No sensational headlines, just images, just truths. In a few hours, that content crossed the city. Some recognized the faces of the men who received the trucks with tears in their eyes. Others shared it with phrases like, "This is true gratitude," or learn from this man, America. At the dealership, the salesman who had mocked Mr. Elias tried to feign normalcy. Ethan, in particular, avoided any topic related to the incident, but it was impossible to escape. The manager, Ms. Thompson, entered the sales room and announced, "The board watched the video. They've called Mr. Elias for a tribute. It's this afternoon." "Here?" Ethan asked, pale. "Here. And guess who will receive him?" Ethan didn't answer. David stood up. "I will receive him. It's the least I can do." When Mr. Elias walked through the door at 3 p.m., nothing about him had changed. The simple shirt, the calm stride, the well-fitted hat. But the atmosphere around him was different. Silent, respectful, gazes lowered. He walked with the same serenity to the center of the showroom. The employees formed a circle. The manager began her speech, but Mr. Elias raised a hand. "No need for all this. I just came to thank this young man here." He pointed to David. "He was the only one who looked me in the eye without judging me by my shoes." David was visibly moved. His colleagues began to applaud, some with shame etched on their faces. Mr. Elias looked around and added, "I know many here laughed, mocked, but I won't lecture. I just want you to remember one thing. Not every man in an old hat is foolish, and not every new car travels farther than someone with gratitude in their heart." Silence. No arguments, no responses. Ethan, red-faced, tried to approach, but Mr. Elias was already turning to leave. Before crossing the threshold, he looked at David one last time. "If you ever want to leave the city and drive on dirt roads, look me up. People who treat others well always have a guaranteed ride with me." And then he left, leaving behind the sound of timid applause and the most silent lesson that dealership had ever received. From that day forward, Mr. Elias's name circulated not only among city salesmen, but among farmers, mechanics, merchants, and people who didn't even know him personally. He wasn't famous, not a politician, didn't appear on billboards, but his story, that traveled faster than any brand new pickup truck. At the dealership, sales continued, but something had changed. The coffee seemed more bitter, the laughter more restrained, the eyes more attentive. It was as if Mr. Elias's silence had taught more than any sales training. David was promoted months later, but he knew his greatest gain wasn't in his new position or his bonus. It was that Saturday on Colombo Road, when he saw with his own eyes what gratitude in its purest form truly means. One afternoon, he returned to Mr. Elias's farm. He wanted to thank him personally. He arrived unannounced, but was received like an old friend. "Well, young man, good to see you. Came for coffee or a dusty ride?" Elias joked with the same calm smile. "I came to tell you your story changed my life, Mr. Elias." "My story? What are you talking about, kid? I just kept my promise. The road doesn't end when you arrive. It continues in the people who walked with you," the farmer said. The two sat under a tree, the sun slowly setting, painting the field orange. The black pickup trucks were all there, lined up in front of the farmhouse, as if silently guarding the stories they carried. David looked at them and said, "Everyone remembers those who buy, but you made the world remember those who helped build." Elias lowered his eyes, thoughtful. "The world forgets easily, my son, but when you build with your heart, not even time can erase it." And on that day, with the wind on his face and the road dust still clinging to the windshield, David understood. There are fleets worth a lot, but none is worth more than a promise kept. This wasn't a simple purchase. It was a silent tribute, a gesture from someone who never forgot, who pushed the truck with him when the world got stuck. And you, who are the people who walked with you, even when the road was just dust? Comment below what this story made you reflect on. Leave your like, share with someone special, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.